Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Sarah Martie. I'm the chair of Government Affairs Forum here at Columbus Realtors, and I'm joined today by Andrew Huffman, who is the Director of Government Affairs with Ohio Realtors. So thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm super excited to talk through the work that you and Ohio Realtors have done today through the state budget process. So can we just kick this off by you giving us a little bit of background on what that process looks like and Ohio Realtors' involvement?
Yeah, Sarah, this is the biggest bill lawmakers work on all session. It appropriates about $190 billion in state and federal funding. It's 6,000 pages long, and it touches every facet of state government. And so we were involved really from the get-go when the governor unveiled his plan in January, and then lawmakers spent about 5-6 months debating the measure before passing it on June 30th. And then the governor signed it on July 4th. So really, it provides some great opportunities, but anytime you're dealing with a bill 6,000 pages long, you need to watch all the details because it only takes one policy change that could really impact our members.
Andrew, did Ohio Realtors have any specific budget items that they were pursuing during this cycle?
Yeah, Sarah, one of our priorities for the last 5 or 6 years now has been the creation of a savings account program for purchasing a new home that would allow tax-deductible contributions to the savings account. And I'm happy to say that we were able to create just that in this budget. And it sometimes doesn't happen overnight. It took a lot of advocacy and education, but the program is better than we ever imagined. Not only do you get those tax savings from making contributions, but then you also get higher than average interest rates on the accounts through the link deposit program through the Treasurer's Office. In addition to account holders making contributions, family members can make contributions as well and take advantage of the tax savings, as can employers. So we think this could be an opportunity for employers to really attract employees by using this as an incentive. And we've been working with the Treasurer's Office quite a bit since this program was really announced by the governor. And we think it's going to be up and running by 2024. So really a win all around. Initially, when we first proposed it, it was going to be for first-time home buyers only.
Yes.
And we have since expanded that to all home buyers in Ohio. And it's not really the only requirement is it has to be a primary residence. It can't be an investment property or anything like that. So we're really excited for this to get off the ground. We're working with financial institutions, the Department of Taxation, like I said, the Treasurer's Office to administer it.
That's huge. Are there any specific dollar amounts that they've tied to this?
The contributions will be limited at $5,000. The tax deductions, I should say, would be limited to $5,000 for a single filer, $10,000 for joint filers, and then a maximum deduction of $25,000 for the life of the account.
Andrew, as a follow-up, we know that there is huge anticipation for future growth in Central Ohio. We already have a housing shortage here. So is there anything specific in the budget that we were addressing to focus on housing affordability and bringing in new construction and development to Central Ohio and Ohio area as a whole?
This is another thing that we've been highlighting for years. Just like the Homebuyer Savings Account program, we said you need to do something about the housing shortage. Ohio has done a great job bringing businesses to the state. We haven't kept up with the demand for housing.
Yeah.
So this budget makes historic investments in new housing development. It reduces barriers for housing construction, and it maintains programs for housing affordability. So let me start with the historic investment in housing development. The budget appropriates to about $225 million per year in new housing development through the creation of 3 new programs. The first being a state affordable housing tax credit program. This is a program that's going to model the federal low-income housing tax credit program, which has really functioned fantastically well since the Reagan administration. So it's really worked. This program, again, will model the federal program. We also created a $50 million tax credit program for single-family housing development. Again, this will go towards developers for the creation of single-family homes. And then the last program that the legislature created is $50 million in grants, $25 million in tax credits to land banks for the construction, purchasing, and rehabilitation of single-family homes. So there's an emphasis on single-family housing, but again, anytime you're investing $225 million a year, that's what you like to see. So that was the investment in new housing development. As far as reducing barriers for housing construction, one change that was made dealt with property taxes. when housing developers purchase a plot of land and subdivide that land, they're often hit with a pretty significant tax increase because those single lots are appraised at a higher value. We were able to change state law to essentially protect developers from those higher taxes until construction actually starts on the plots of land. Then we also made it more challenging to repeal local township zoning laws when they approve zoning plans for new housing construction. It only takes 8% of registered voters to get a repeal effort on the ballot. 8% doesn't take many signatures. So we were able to increase that to 15%. So hopefully that'll help reduce some of those costs that developers have when they have to, fight something on the ballot. So those were 3 areas, or 2 areas where we lower costs and then invest in new housing development. And then housing assistance programs. There was an effort to try to eliminate OFA, the Ohio Housing Finance Agency.
Yeah.
Obviously, OFA provides so many great services to Ohioans. Fortunately, Ohio Realtors, along with numerous other groups, pushed back against that, and we were able to get that pulled from the budget. So OFA remains unchanged, fortunately. And then we were also able to do things like indexing the homestead exemption. Something small like that should help some of our older and disabled Ohioans.
Well, it sounds like we really had the ear of the statehouse this, around housing in this budget cycle. So that's amazing. So thank you for everything.
Well,
that you guys did.
it sometimes doesn't happen overnight, especially with some of these major policy changes. But it just goes to show that with good, pointed advocacy efforts, you can make a difference. It just may take a little bit longer than you thought.
Andrew, were there any specific provisions that you would like to highlight for our viewers that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, another provision that we were really excited to see is a consumer protection issue. Many of our listeners probably heard about the long-term right to list agreements that certain companies were getting homeowners to sign up for. These are 40-year exclusive listing agreements that really just locked homeowners into these agreements, and they didn't know what they were signing up for. And the worst part about it is it ran with the property. So you had a homeowner pass away, and the heirs go to sell the property, and they realize they're locked into these agreements. So it got so bad that the Attorney General, Dave Yost, filed a lawsuit earlier this year. And we were able to work with a number of legislators on a provision in the budget to essentially outlaw these type of contracts. So that was great to see. It was an issue that was gaining quite a bit of publicity and just a lot of negative attention. So we were able to protect Ohioans from those contracts. And then another provision in here that we need to continue to work on is an issue dealing with foreign adversaries. So there's a wave kind of sweeping the nation in multiple states, legislation trying to prohibit foreign adversaries from purchasing land in that state. And Ohio, I don't want to say they snuck something in, but they added a provision towards the very end of the budget that requires the Secretary of State to develop a list of foreign adversaries. Those individuals and businesses and governments on that list would be prohibited from purchasing agricultural land. So it's limited to just agricultural land. However, there are some concerns with it. So what does that mean for real estate professionals? Who's conducting the background to make sure that your client is or is not on that list? And it also raises federal fair housing concerns as well. You don't want to discriminate based on someone's country of origin. And so there was similar legislation in Florida that was passed. It's being challenged in the court system right now. I'm happy to say that Ohio doesn't go as far as what Florida tried to do, but this is something that we need to watch. We've already contacted the Secretary of State's office, and we're working with him on developing that list.
We're at the point now where the budget has passed. Tell us, what are lawmakers going to do with the rest of this session?
Well, now they focus on everything else. And so we're going to see lawmakers come back probably in September. They'll really hit the ground running in October. There's going to be a number of issues that we need to tackle. There's already been 400 bills introduced this session, and we're tracking about 40, 50 pieces of legislation that could impact our members. I do know that when lawmakers come back, they're going to look at occupational licensing laws. I feel like they do that every session, but I know the Division of Real Estate and professional licensing is being reviewed this go around as well. So that'll last not only this year, but then into next year as well. So we'll need to defend the license. I also expect this foreign adversary issue not to go away. Sure. There's probably some tweaks that need to be made to that. We've already seen a standalone bill introduced, so we need to work with lawmakers on maybe cleaning some of the language up. Institutional investors. This is one of the first issues that was really discussed this legislative session. There's certain parts of the state where institutional investors came in and bought thousands of properties, and they turned single-family homes into rental units.
Yeah.
That has certainly impacted housing markets, and lawmakers are getting creative on ways to try to return those rental units to single-family owner-occupied homes. So we'll work with lawmakers on that to make sure that we're not harming the tenants of those rental units. If you want to get rid of the rental units, those tenants need to go somewhere. So, and we also don't want too much government intervention in the housing market. So we certainly have our work cut out with us for us on that one as well. And then property taxes. You know, this has been a major issue. Many counties are undergoing either a property reappraisal or a 3-year update on their property values. And as property values go up, certainly property taxes go up as well. So here in Franklin County, you're seeing significant increases. Taxes are going to increase as well. So we thought we had a proposal in the budget that was going to be passed to try to lessen the increase on property taxes. That unfortunately was pulled from the budget. But what's in the budget is a study committee on property taxation, Ohio's system of property taxes. So it's going to take an in-depth look. That study committee isn't scheduled to issue its report until the end of 2024. So we may see something in the meantime to address some of the concerns in counties that are seeing 30-40% increases in property values.
There's a lot to look forward to, it sounds like. Andrew,
Yeah,
thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for the tremendous advocacy that you are doing at the State House. It's hugely impactful in Central Ohio, and we're all very grateful, so thank you again.
Well, thank you so much.